Hej och hjärtligt välkomna till Investor Studios. Idag med Maha Capital som omorganiserat bolaget i två oberoende divisioner, Fintech och Energy. Två divisioner som kommer att arbeta under sin egen ledningsgrupp, sitt eget varumärke, kapitalallokeringsstrategi och styrningsstruktur. Som vanligt när vi sänder live kan du som tittar live ställa frågor och interagera med management, och det gör du genom att ställa dina frågor i chattfältet. Vi kommer att hantera frågorna efter presentationen. Och den kommer nu att fortsätta på engelska. It's a great pleasure to introduce Paolo Fidanza, chairman of Maha Capital, and of course welcome back Roberto Marchiori, CEO of Maha. So Paolo, take it away.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm Paolo Fidanza. I'm the founder of KEO Energy-avknoppningen, and now I'm the chairman of Maha Capital AB.
Thank you, Carlo. Very nice to be here again with you guys. Thank you, Paolo. I am Roberto Marchiori, the CEO of the company.
So today we're here because we want to give you some more color regarding our corporate restructuring that we announced on Monday. So I'm going to share with you some slides to go through the reorganization for the company. Today, the company, what you see in Maha Capital, is the result of a merger between Maha Capital, the private equity with interest in the oil and gas, and KEO Energy-avknoppningen, the fintech business. So these are two divisions now within the group. They have totally different objectives, they're totally different markets with great prospects, extremely positive, but they need to be treated as two different businesses. So the decision that we made within the group was to be able to segment the two businesses into two, different subsidiaries, so that each one could pursue its business independently with an assigned team, with an assigned brand, to give them the best opportunity to succeed and to develop and fulfill the business plan at its best. So on one side, we now have KEO Capital. KEO Capital now is our fintech, It's the business that I founded, it's the business that has been traveling across the Americas and which needed, a different capital structure to be able to fully exploit the potential and the market that we created. So we'll give you more details on this in a second, but the business will be branded as KEO Capital. So that is the company. We continue using the brand that is already very well known across the Americas within the B2B community, thanks to all the transactions we've done over the years, and now is growing in more markets. On the other side, we have our subsidiary Maha Indiana, to which we are reassigning all the rights over our Venezuelan PetroUrdaneta field, joint venture with PDVSA, in which today we have a 24% stake in the joint venture with an option to purchase a 16% additional stake. This company, due to the geopolitical situation, we are now allowed to operate this field under the General License 52, the AFAC license issued by the United States to American companies. So this rebranding not only is making sure that we do not mingle the two divisions, so we can separate and operate completely independent businesses that have a completely different market and expertise, but also we are Americanizing this company because it is an American company. It needs to be an American company for the AFAC license, and it operates in the United States and in Venezuela. By rebranding this KEO Energy, we give it a heritage. KEO was, and it is, an American company born in Miami, founded in Miami, headquartered in Miami. KEO Energy, the headquarters is in Miami. We are relocating the headquarters in Miami with offices in Caracas. So by giving this branding, we Americanize the company, and it also is in line with the actual business of the company. They will be based in the United States, operating in Venezuela. So this way, as you see the group, the main company, we're now planning, as approved by the AGM in January, to rename Maha Capital KEO Capital AB. This is a great brand that we built over the years. Also, maybe some of you don't know, but the Maha brand has some issues when you go down to the Americas, because unfortunately it's associated to a slogan, no? Make America healthy again. That is not really correlating to our business, no? So the change of brand is also repositioning correctly our business to be at the moment an America's focused business for the fintechs and the energy, in a brand that is already was built over 6 years now, demonstrating innovation and success. So this will give us a fresh brand, no, that is more appropriate in correlating to the actual business. More importantly, is completely segmenting into the two divisions, making them completely independent. On a side of fintech, we retain all our cash position to be able to maximize the results as previously discussed, and the investment thesis that was presented already to all the shareholders that I will reinforce in a second. On the other side, we are now considering, as we have announced to the shareholders, a spin-off and direct listing of our subsidiaries on the US market, on a public market. And as part of this, we are considering all options to do, including a pre-IPO raise to fund it. We want to make sure that both divisions, they will have the proper funding to be able to fulfill at its best the business plan and to provide the best return for the group. So one side we'll have a fintech with a net cash position of $150 million as presented by the CEO. On the other side, we'll do pre-IPO financing round or any other financing structure that is appropriate for the business to then provide the same amount of capital is required to fulfill their business plan. Now coming down to fintech, I want to transmit to you the passion that is in this business. First of all, I want to thank Roberto for being an amazing CEO. The business that I founded in 2020 was innovating. No? We created a lot of technology and we started a new market. We started chipping into what we call the B2B transactional world. No? So looking at all the stats is between $150 trillion to $250 trillion a year, this market of payments between businesses. When you go and look at KEO Capital, the real innovation is not just about giving credit, it's also about digitalizing the experience and the way that these companies transact, no? Making much more efficient. We give much more value than just a credit. No? We give them a platform that allows them to be more efficient, to manage their payments, as well as getting credit on that. So there is a lot more than just a buy now, pay later for businesses. No, that's just a credit function. Here we actually streamline the process of paying an invoice and then add a credit component to that. This company that I founded was thriving in the Americas, but had a big issue. The issue was I didn't have the capital structure to be able to expand it and to make it more profitable. With this merger now, today, Roberto now has the proper capital structure, has enough equity that he can then leverage to then be able now to expand it, serve more of the clients that we have across all the region, across the two platforms, our Work KEO, that is our B2B working capital solution, and our global trade card that is for our cross-border transactions. Now we're able to take over this market. Now we're able without a barrier. So we limited funding at KEO. We were able to deliver over $1 billion in transactions in Mexico alone, no? And without having very little facility and very expensive. Today, with Roberto, is leading the company in a way that with a new capital structure, with a new organization, no? They put in place to take full advantage of this huge market. This is a huge market. It's a huge market, is untapped. And then we are the first one and the leader, and we expect to do very, very, very good in this market. So I feel very excited by the prospect in this company. And what you was also lacking, I'm an inventor. No? I love solving problems. I start up the company, but the company now needed also a good restructuring. We needed now to be ready to scale up. No? We proved the market, we proved the technology, we proved the adoption. We got American Express supporting us, a great partner, an amazing partner. We have a number of high, blue chip clients using the platform, but then we needed now to go from a startup to a grown-up company, And then this merger allowed us to now be a grown-up company. It allowed us to do the right structure. Roberto and the team now managed to put all these processes in place, and I cannot wait to see the Q2 results and starting seeing the growth of the company. So I feel extremely positive on all our story. We're talking about technology, and I want to stress this again because sometimes it doesn't come across, correctly in my view. We have a great API that we created. We developed our own proprietary payment rails that allows to connect buyers, sellers, payment mechanism, instant payments, cross-border instant payments. We have our own proprietary stable coins and tokens. So it's an amazing technology that we're going to start to deploy in some key markets. So there's going to be in the next, you will see in the next quarter or the quarter after, a number of developments in the company as we push our technology out and our rollout, also our property network. This is, I'm sure you see a lot of news regarding stable coins. Well, we have our own proprietary, we have our own property patent pending, complete network. We're the first one to deploy this, and it's really exciting, and I really look forward to the team and Roberto being able to push our technology and give a lot of benefits to businesses. The key here that we are giving a great service to businesses. We allow them to manage the invoice payments in a much more efficient way. We give them very efficient credit solution, so we give them an opportunity to grow. We finance the inventory. They can sell more. When they sell more, they can make more profits. They employ more people. They have an impact on the local society. So it's a very impactful solution. It's a beautiful program. So, and this technology will allow us to really go global, because we now have no limits and no barriers. I want to give you some numbers. I know that you already saw this with Roberto presenting it, but I just want to make sure that all the shareholders understand the strength of the company. These numbers are from the pre-merger. So pre-merger, you can see there's been a growth on the portfolio, on the average outstanding. So we're already in a growth mode. And now, post-merger, we actually have the full funding available for the company. We've now an opportunity to operate in all the markets. So now the team and Roberto has taken on, an already, growing business with all the tools to make it explode. So that's why I wanted, again, to remind all our shareholders that it's a solid business in the fintech. A business that started in 2020 is not, a new business. A business that already proved its viability. A business that is associated with American Express. We have, fintech issuers. So it's a great business. It's a business is performing, and I expect, from the next quarter to be able to see, great results going ahead. I trust the team on the growth of the business. I also want to stress something again. Roberto presented this, but it's amazing when you look at the performance of the company. Actually, if you remove, the non-recurring items, it's a profitable company. We are in the green. That's it's again a solid business, a solid company that is being run properly. And I just wanted to get this opportunity together with presenting the rebranding and the focus that we have on each division, but also to give you, stress again the fact on how this company is being managed with a very, diligence to make sure that all shareholders, we maximize the value for all of us in this company. So again, I want to thank the team for doing a great job, and I trust them to obviously taking this to the future more and more. The next one, please. Now I want to switch a little second to the oil and gas division. Proposed to Keo Energy. So this will be a totally different spin-off. We plan and we are investigating the best way to distribute the shares of the spin-off to the shareholders in an efficient way, so to maximize the return for all the shareholders. So this company will not be sold or spin off to put money into the company. It would be a direct distribution to the shareholders in the most efficient way. We are investigating. That's the direction of the board. We don't have details yet. As soon as we have, we'll communicate to you. But that's the intention. And, the strategy of the board is to maximize the distribution and the return for all shareholders for this division. As also mentioned, this division, we will do a pre-IPO financing round or any equivalent capital raise that will allow us to fund it properly. Because also in this case, on the energy side, we have an amazing opportunity. The PetroUrdaneta field, you see, is at its peak, was producing 240,000 barrels per day. There is an expectation we could get 200 million barrels more out of production during our course. So it's a great asset. No, we now have, we're released, we're covered, we can operate under the General License 52, the OFAC license. So we allowed us to operate. We are now in the process of negotiating with PDVSA the operating agreement, and will allow us to actually start operating the field. That's why in parallel, we're doing this process of spin-off to making sure that we have two completely independent divisions that will be operating the two businesses, no, without mingling one and the other, and also two very different sectors, no, energy and Fintech. But this is, again, is an amazing asset that the company has, and it will be an amazing, return and additional value for all the shareholders. This one, just to give a quick outlook to say the real potential on this reserve. No, if you look at the potential, but just by upgrading the infrastructures, as you all know, you may know, but Venezuela has been degrading, although they have the largest proven reserve, oil reserve in the world, the largest, more than the United States, more than Saudi Arabia, more than UAE, the largest in the world. They've been degrading all the infrastructure. So the oil production, for example, in our field, from 240,000 barrels a day is now currently 1,500 barrels a day because there have been no investment. No, so by simply going in and starting changing and investing in the most basic infrastructure like the lifting capacity, would be able to quickly ramp up again the production to 10, 15,000 and eventually to 40,000 barrels a day. And we have obviously a very long license, that will allow us to start, to have another 13 years and then an option to renew another 15 years more. So it's a great project, but also a long-term project. It will allow us to invest and generate significant returns over time. So today I wanted to give you a bit more color on this reorganization, making sure that all the shareholders could really understand our direction, why the rebranding, why the restructuring, understand that there is two different companies. So there's a Fintech division and an energy division. There is two different teams managing these two companies. There's no mixing between them. There's no mixing on capital. We have capital. The current cash position is dedicated to the Fintech, and we now raise additional capital to fund the energy division. Energy division will be spun out and distributed to the shareholders under the best, structure that we can. So we make sure that we consider all the implication for the shareholders, for all the Swedish shareholders, regional shareholders, European shareholders, American shareholders, and South American shareholders. So from wherever they are, we're trying to find the best solution to accommodate them all. And then we proceed with that so that you will then be able to be shareholders in two amazing companies. They will share a name, the Keo, no? And a heritage on innovation and passion, no? They will have in this. So I think with this, Carlo, we finished. We're ready to take questions.
Well, thank you for that, Paolo. Very interesting. And we'll now open up to questions. And I remember everyone who is watching that we also have the CEO, Roberto Marchiori, ready to answer questions. And we received a lot of questions ahead of this due to the press release. But I will just kick off with, which I think is a yes or no question from one of the viewer. A live question here is the company K-Lab AI related to Keo Rails in any way?
Sorry, I put no, it's not related. It's a totally different company.
Exactly, so I thought. But so let's go into SPAC and listing here. The Blue Water acquisition termination cited regulatory environments and timeline hurdles. Was the friction the OFAC GL 52 compliance specifically, or was it SEC registration of the Venezuela exposure or SPAC side trust redemptions?
No, it wasn't due to any of this fault. It was just like on all this type of transaction, we signed that non-binding LOI. But we started analyzing all the components and all the processes. We realized it wasn't in our best interest to proceed with the transaction. That's why we stopped it. And I think it was also a very wise choice, given today's strategies is not to do a whole SPAC for the whole group, but just to spin out a division. The division could be a direct listing or a SPAC deal. We don't know, as we said, we're considering all the capital structures for the division, but they would minimize the dilution for the shareholders. So there is not going to be a dilution at the group level. If there will be any, it would be just on the energy. If we go to a SPAC deal for that, run a direct listing or capital raise. So, Roberto, do you want to add anything to this?
Just to remember, I think there's also a question if there's any diligence appointment or so. There's nothing related to that. It was a mutual agreement, and we decided by not reaching the main terms of conditions to postpone these discussions and cancel the LOI.
And I will continue here with a technical question here. What makes a self-managed direct listing of Keo Energy easier to execute than the de-SPAC of those same regulatory grounds?
We don't know yet. So we mentioned the listing. It could end up being a SPAC. We're just looking at the best option to spin out the subsidiary. So we will evaluate all options, and we'll make sure that we choose the best option for all shareholders. So our idea is to maximize shareholders' value and to make the two businesses independent.
And I will continue here with the listing question. And for you, for all of those of you who are writing in questions here regarding the energy side, I will take those when we have the energy questions coming on a little bit later. So be patient. The Keo Energy spin-off and the Nordic shareholders would be the title here. Regarding the planned distribution in kind and the US listing of Keo Energy, and I'm quoting here, many Nordic shareholders hold their share in tax advantage accounts typical to Sweden with restrictions. How will management structure this spin-off to ensure retail and professional investors in the Nordics do not face severe technical frictions when receiving these US shares?
So all our shareholders are our priority. So obviously our Swedish and Norwegian shareholders are very important. We are engaging now with professionals to advise us on the best way and the best option to make sure that we can satisfy all the shareholders' requirements. So we will prioritize and making sure that we accommodate as best that we can all the shareholders' requirements. That's our priority. That's we operate as this company on behalf of the shareholders.
And when will it happen? The first listing would that be during 2026?
We are working on this. We can't give an exact time scale because unfortunately it's not dependent by us. We started the process, so we're going through the selection process. We decide on the right capital structure. We decide on the market. As we said, we want to go to the United States, but that could be in a number of ways. Direct listing is obviously our main objective, but it could end up being a SPAC or a de-SPAC deal. So we're looking at this now, and we are going to obviously move as fast as we can. Our ambition is for this to happen very fast. So not in weeks, unfortunately, but in months. But we can't give an exact date, but we'll target to make it happen, as fast as possible, so the two businesses are independent. So we have our commitment within whatever is feasible, then we're going to be the fastest.
Yeah, and it takes two to tango there. And I believe that will answer the next question here from a viewer is what U.S. market you will be listed on. It's to be continued, I take it, or have you already focused on anyone there?
Well, we're looking at the Nasdaq as being the main target. Is a market that we really like. We understand, but also the New York Stock Exchange is obviously the biggest market in the world. So the US is home to the two largest markets. So we're looking at those markets.
And then we have something about focusing on funding of the energy. And I believe you answered that on one slide, but how is the fintech business funded through to the energy listing? My understanding is that it will be split off and that the fintech business will be funded by itself, or did I misunderstand that?
No, that's correct. So our plan is to retain the cash position for the fintech. So balance position have been shared, 140, 50. I don't want to mention numbers. That's Roberto's job. No, but so all that is dedicated to the fintech business. No, that is there because, as we explained previously, we got this beautiful machine. No, we can generate high quality receivables. There is this credit that we finance to medium to large enterprises on a recurring basis. With a very high yield. No, so that's I call it like a machine to make money. No, and it's a beautiful machine. So it needs feeding. The feeding is coming from the funding. On the energy side, by spinning off, is giving us an opportunity to conduct a capital raise. We are already in discussions with many investors, many options. We are going to decide which one is the best option to maximize shareholder value. So that obviously to get the biggest valuation that we can, minimize dilution, and get access to the capital that the division needs so they can also fulfill its full business plan. So the result is we'll have two companies well funded, with amazing prospects, and the shareholders will have a double win, because we'll have shares in both.
Yeah. So basically, because we have a question here about dilution, but basically if you're a shareholder today of Maha Capital, tomorrow you will be a shareholder of two different companies here. So there won't be any dilution. You just get a clearer picture of the value of the company. Would that be a way to interpret this?
Absolutely. Today, the way I would represent it is like you get a bonus. No, you invested into Maha Capital on the basis of the fintech business plan. Now the fintech business plan is going ahead with the full funding. Nothing has changed. If anything, you can see from the results there is already a growing business, a solid business. No, so what has changed is even the thesis that was presented before the merger is also being corroborated by the current results. On the other side, it was this asset. There was a silent asset that now is going to result in being another public company funded again, to which you will receive a pro rata shareholding, mirroring that, minus whatever dilution for whatever capital raise you need to do. So you will receive a bonus share. So it's almost like doubling your investment.
And we have one question here on the reserve report. So on the Q1 call, the management yourself referred to an independent valuation of PetroUrdaneta. And the question is really who conducted it and on what terms? How much can you go into depth there?
Look, we have engaged a very respectable US auditor to conduct this according to the industry international standards. There's a PMRS standards. So they are working on this. We obviously expect again that this will deliver a significant value to the company, a material value. We cannot, announce it until we have it's completed. They are working this again. We are hoping to fast track it. I just want to mention that in respect to this, I was personally in Caracas 2 times negotiating the operating agreement with PDVSA, so to make sure that we can start operating this, and that obviously will have an impact on the final version of this report, according to the final terms. So we are pretty much on that. Again, we cannot commit to when it will be released, but it will be very soon.
So basically, if anyone wants detailed questions there, they just have to watch the space on your side. Yeah, sorry.
Just one additional comment on the reserve report. It's also important to remember we are still waiting these negotiations to be concluded with PDVSA, so we can provide some additional information for the auditors to complete the reports. So that's why we are not commenting so much on the timing.
And we have one question here. We will have a couple of valuation questions here at the end. But does management recognize that using the KEO brand for both companies risk defeating the purpose of the spin-off? Could it be an idea to keep the Maha Oil and Gas Inc. or you already referred to it's been well, let's say associated with something else here, but Keo Energy, that will be the name.
Yeah, so Keo Energy will be the name. Again, the reason why we moved away from the Maha brand is because the connotation that it has. Also in Latin America, the Maha name is resemble like a dance, you know, rather than a company. So again, it's not correlating to our business in any way. The Keo brand, the two companies will be totally different, separated. These examples in the industry of many groups that they have different companies sharing the same brand and thriving on each sector. No? Here the important is that the brand gives both companies the American heritage, that is where they are operating, what is the core market. It gives them already a brand awareness, no? Then that is associated to that is important for our companies. But they're two totally different companies in two totally different segments, markets, you know, independent with their own team. So we don't see any risk of on that effect.
And just to clarify here, we have a viewer question. Or will the stock be registered in any other exchange before the US listing? And I would guess not. So the only way to acquire these two, well, the future two stocks would be to acquire it via the Stockholm Stock Exchange. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct.
All right, so I have a question here regarding valuation, and obviously there are limits to what you can, how you can reply. But the recent Bowsprit Partners report values the Fintech division alone at the base case of 27 Swedish krona per share. However, the stock is currently trading below 8 Swedish kronor. So how would you address that, apart from the fact that you are divesting the stock here, and in my opinion then unlock value? Will there be a share buyback program, or how would you address this anomaly in the market?
Look, it is a big anomaly, obviously. It's total, you know, honesty, of course. I see the same anomaly. I'm shocked. I don't understand it. We focusing on the business, the core business. We got an amazing core business. I was saying, solid business. We employ people. No, we have a lot of people employed. You know, between the two divisions, you have, you know, well over 100. You know, people, you know, appreciate it. The 200 is a lot of work that we do every day in this company. You know, so it's a real business with fundamentals. We generate revenues. We have a real product. We're focusing on the business. Then we will let the market decide what is the right value for the company. We don't control that. You know, as a majority shareholders, you know, then, you know, I'm in for the long term. You know, this is not only I look up as a majority shareholders. I'm here for the long term. I'm not planning to sell. You won't see me selling stock. So there's what we're doing here is we're building a business. We're focusing on that. And I think that you know, in the medium, short term, long term, at one point, the market will realize the value of the company and things will be adjusted. You know?
And as we go along, I'm sure, because we have one of the live questions here, the stock market is not understanding the company potential, and basically I think you gave us the answer there, so time will tell. I would like to move on to KEO Capital, to the fintech here. Operational KPIs. Now that the fintech division will operate independently, at least this questionnaire is eager to model its underlying growth. When can we investors and the market expect the company to start reporting regular financial and operational KPIs? And what will they be?
Look, I'm eager, like all our shareholders, to start seeing this reporting. We completed the merger in April 2, so it means that we need to wait the end of the second quarter. So by August, we'll announce the results. You will see that Roberto will be able to put together a number of KPIs that will be very comprehensive because again, this is a very deep business with with lots of clients, lots of transactions, big volumes. So we'll be able to share all of this. We gave you a preview of this when you saw some KPIs on the pre-merger. No, that's why I wanted to show again, a few minutes ago, the business, so you can start making calculation. You can start seeing that our average lines for our clients, roughly $1 million per client, line. You see what is our yield on annual basis, so you can correlate and see how we grow clients. What is our potential? No, it's a huge potential. No, with the type of capital. So coming back to the thesis, I don't understand the market. I'm an entrepreneur, so I don't play with stocks. I play with businesses. No, I have a passion in business. We're focusing on building the business, and then I know at one point the market will recognize the value of this business. No, I have full confidence. If we keep focusing on the business, we'll be the winners in the long term, in the long run.
And I would just kick off, add on to oil questions here. Timeline in Venezuela. Do you still view August as a critical deadline for the agreements, given the current OFAC general license timeline?
So I was, as I mentioned before, personally in Caracas for the negotiation. This week I will keep going and leading the negotiations. Not because I'm an oil and gas expert. I'm a fintech business. Well, I span across very different industries. I'm giving my support from what is my value as a businessman, obviously as being part of the American ownership of the company. I personally met with the US ambassador, John Barrett. He's a fantastic person doing an incredible job in the country. So we have, full support and we support this. So we don't know. I can't say whether it's August or not. I can tell you that we are, putting the same passion in the two divisions to make sure that we succeed in both fields. We like to win all the games. So we'll be on the front of that and doing our best for this to be as soon as possible. Mm-hmm.
And you just have to remind me here, because I have a question regarding the domicile. Both companies will be domiciled in Miami, US?
Yeah, that's correct. That's what we belong at the moment. Our business is on the fintech side. As you know, we operate in our main market. So it was Mexico. We have plans to launch very soon in Canada, in Brazil. We already have a cross-border program now, the GTC. All of this is focused around the Americas. Now, so Miami is the central place from which we can fulfill all of this, also be closer to our customers and to our clients. That's why the fintech business was founded. For the energy business is again the same rationale. The business is with Venezuela and the US, and the general license 52. Actually, the restrictions are you can only trade with the United States. So that's the preferred base. It's the closest city to Caracas now in the US. So it's also from a logistic point of view, it makes sense. So both businesses would be headquartered there. Yeah.
And we have a viewer question regarding KEO Capital here. Will the KEO Capital products be introduced to Jamaica? And it seems like they think that there is a huge potential there. And my add-on question be there is, you seem to have a lot on your plate. So how will you handle that? But Jamaica first. Will you?
Okay, let's move to Jamaica first. So I'm so happy for the question, because the answer is finally now Roberto and the team have the tools and the cash and equity to be able to fulfill this need that is global. Businesses all around the world need a KEO type of facility. They need to be able to streamline their inventory purchases. They need to be able to access credit facility that are efficient. They need to be able to have this negotiation between them and their suppliers on a platform that makes this, instant. So it's a lot of benefits, not just in Jamaica, all around the world. For sure, we'll get also to Jamaica. But I'll let Roberto obviously decide at the moment we'll enter Jamaica, but he's on his plate. In his plate is now global dominance.
Yeah, and I think you, in part, answered the question there. You have a lot on your plate, but with this divestment, you will be able to focus and spread your wings, as it were. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. So the idea, so that you also understand, is that as we do the spin-off, we're going to get a professional CEO for the oil and gas. He's an expert in oil and gas. Again, I'm not an expert, it's not my expertise. My expertise is business and people. So I understand this side of the business, but not the drilling. So we're going to get a professional CEO. We're going to get partners that are expert in the oil and gas to make sure that we preserve and maximize the value of all shareholders in that investment as well. But the fintech will be just focusing on the fintech. So Roberto and the team will have no distractions with the OFAC licenses in Venezuela business. Now they will be able to focus on the fintech business and drive the business. Now that the business is where our passion heart is, and then we will see the great prospects.
And then my final question here would be then, if we look at the KEO Capital in this case, who would you like to be paired to and compared with? If we're in the market, we should compare you to whom? Any particular sector or any particular companies?
I'll answer. I don't want to sound arrogant because I never was. It's one of the things I've never been in my life. But the reality is that we created a new segment. What we do with KEO is the tech, the patent pending that we have on our technology. We resolve the problem. The problem of being able to digitalize B2B transaction. It wasn't done before. If you see the statistics, out of B2B payments, over 96% of those payments were not digital. Cash, checks, wires, so everything but digital. So when we created KEO and the patent that we put for that, and then after the KEO rails and all the technology and product, we resolved the problem. So that has been always our main objective as a company to resolve this. So what is the closest to it? So there isn't someone in the world doing what we do today. I haven't found it, and I've talked to everyone. So there isn't. So who we can have the closest? Well, if you want a comparison, maybe we are the Klarna of B2B, and our work here. So we offer a way for businesses to pay over time. What Klarna is lacking that we also adjust the supplier needs, because also can anticipate money to the supplier, not just extend time to the buyer. So we satisfy the two ends. So we are a Klarna on steroids for businesses. On the other side, when I look at our global trade card, probably the closest is the RAMP, the US corporate credit card, because of all the tech that is associated on the reporting. We do that too, but again, we're a global instrument, not just a US one. So these are close comparison. I think that to get us close to the top of peers, but the reality is, we created a product, so we innovated, so we created a new segment, and today we still don't have a clear competitor on that.
Sorry, and without Paolo, I think you answered a lot of the underlying questions here that we received written ahead and live here, because it seems like there is a question mark regarding the difference between the, let's say, underlying value and the share price. So, one could draw one conclusion in saying that because you're a different animal and a new kid on the block, it will take a little while and some education to get the proper value for the share. Would that be a fair assumption?
Look, I think at the moment, again, I come back to a point. I don't know why the market is not buying us. I don't understand it, and it shocks me. The point is that there's a solid business, there's a solid team, there's solid results. I come back to showing the results from the last quarter. So the only thing we can do as a business here, Roberto and I and the rest of the team, is we focus on the business to make sure that the business is strong, thrives, and will grow. At the same time, we also recognize that we're not very good at communicating with the shareholders. So joining as a chairman, I wanted to make sure that we could have these better communications, this webcast, and announcement. You will see there will be more news flow to keep you updated on a continuous basis. We want you to be part, supporting us, the company. You are all partners with us. Every single shareholder that invested in Maha, or KEO Capital from now on, as I like to call it, every single shareholder invested in KEO Capital is our partner. I want you to be involved with the business, being proud of our brand, being proud of what we're doing. It's a beautiful product. It's also got a great social impact. Both the fintech, with helping businesses, and when we go into energy, we are really going to help a lot Venezuela and the family and the social situation that is there that we're going to address by being able to build infrastructures and impact the local. So there is a feel-good factor about, being with us, and will promise to the shareholders if we keep focusing to build a strong business. And then we hope that the market will recognize the value and then the dynamics will change.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you for that, Paolo, and thank you for that, Roberto. And a particular thank you to all of you who have been engaged in questions, and I'm sure there are more questions and we will forward those to the company. So with that, I would say thank you guys and see you later.
Thank you so much, Carlo. Thank you, Roberto.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Ja.
Thank you.
Och då säger vi tack till alla er som har tittat, och som sagt, har ni fler frågor så ta dem med bolaget. Tack ska ni ha. Hej!